Warm greetings from the high tent. It is Everyday Shenanigans on this Monday, June 1st, 2020. Thanks for joining me. Prayers for George Floyd's family and the people who are rallying and protesting for equal rights for African American people. Amen to you and kudos to you and thank you. I want to bring you some set information pertaining to this catastrophic event that took place last week in Minneapolis. And if you need verification for the storyline, please log on to The Hill. More than 60 reporters attacked, arrested, or harassed since George Floyd protests began, group says. The Radio Television Digital News Association said it has tallied more than 60 incidents in which journalists covering demonstrations over the police-involved death of George Floyd were attacked, arrested, or harassed by protesters or police in the past 48 hours alone. RTDNA Executive Director and Chief Operating Officer Dan Shelley called the situation calamitous and harming the public at large. Journalists shouldn't be the story, Shelley said. It is a calamitous to see all these journalists who are merely serving the public by covering these incidents of civil unrest being wantonly attacked. Journalists are representatives of the public and are there to serve the public and to tell the stories of the protesters and of the elected and other public officials trying to deal with the situation. It is really harming the public at large, not just the journalists. It's interfering with their ability to be eyewitnesses and chroniclers of what's occurring in this country right now, he added. Several of the incidents have played out on live television or on social media, including the arrest of CNN reporter and crew in Minneapolis, and a crew in Minneapolis, and a Fox News reporter and crew being chased out of Lafayette Park near the White House in Washington, D.C. on Friday night. The CNN reporter, Omar Jimenez, who is black and Hispanic, and his crew were quickly released after Minnesota Governor Tim Walz of Minnesota apologized to CNN President Jeff Zucker and promised to allow the press to do their jobs without interference or arrest by police. A large protest at CNN headquarters in Atlanta earlier Friday resulted in clashes with police and vandalism to the building. And there's also a set video in this article. While reporting for Fox News at night, Friday night, one of the two of Leland Vitter's security staffers was punched in the face and knocked to the ground as the team hurriedly exited the park. This was the scariest situation I've been in since I've got chased out of Tahrir Square by a mob, and this was equally scary, said Vitter, whose reporting from hotspots includes Cairo, Libya, and West Bank, war in Ukraine, and the 2015 Baltimore riots. Also on Friday night, photojournalist Linda Tirado was shot in the left eye in Minneapolis by a rubber bullet she believes came from the direction of police. Doctors say she likely has lost vision in her left eye permanently. And there's a said photo of Miss Tirado in this said article of her injuries. In Louisville, Kentucky, Caitlin Russ, a reporter with NBC affiliate WAVE3, also was pepper sprayed by police on Friday. I'm getting shot, Russ yelled as she was struck during her report on live television. Protests began early last week after video surfaced of a Minneapolis police officer pinning Floyd to the ground by kneeling on Floyd's neck. Floyd died shortly after the incident, and the officer has been fired and charged with first-degree murder and second-degree manslaughter. I didn't know it was first degree. Maybe it upped. I don't know. Since then, 8 Associated Press journalists have been hurt, including 3 by rubber bullets. One also was punched and others knocked to the ground. Authorities in cities across the U.S. need to instruct police not to target journalists and ensure they can report safely on the protests without fear of injury or retaliation, the Committee of Protect Journalists said in a statement on Sunday. If you need verification for the storyline, please log on to The Hill. Let me say that this is a tumultuous time. This is a horrific time, but this is history in the making. This is history, point blank. This has been going on for a very long time. Okay? Centuries of misjustice, miscarriages of justice, abuse, torture to the African American people. This is nothing new. What has transpired in Minneapolis with George Floyd, okay? Now, I do not condone violence, unwarranted violence. I always say unwarranted because some people can spur on violence and people need to defend themselves. So let me be clear in what I'm saying to you. But The reporters have a job to do, and they should be allowed to do their job without being harmed by the police and or protesters, civilians, groups, however you want to label them. Let me first commend Michael Jordan for his thoughts on the situation, that we are fed up. Yes, sir, we are. And I want to commend Mr. Spike Lee for his interview. It was a wonderful interview you did, and you told the truth. You told the truth. And many people need to hear the truth. All races need to hear the truth. I saw a reporter being a gun pulled on a reporter by a police officer. I can't say which city it was. I can't remember which city it was the other night. I don't know if it was Minneapolis or New York or where it was. But the woman had a microphone as big as her head. And naturally, the cameraman is holding the camera because I'm watching it. So why would the police pull a gun on them? If you want them to back up from a certain area, then all you have to do is just say, please back up. You don't have to pull a gun on them. And as for the protesters, you all need to be leery of what you are doing out there. There's nothing wrong with rallying and giving your free speech. That is your First Amendment right. You have that right. But do not hurt and harm other people. Do not harm the reporters, because they are there to give you a voice, to give a voice to the slain, to give a voice to the people, to show that we are angry, we are pissed, and we have a right to gather, and we have a right to voice our opinions on the murder of George Floyd or any other situation that arises in this country. We have that right to gather. The violence I don't condone. No, the graffiti, the looting, but it is what it is. It is the ramifications of being oppressed, of being murdered, bludgeoned, with no regard for life. An action that has transpired for hundreds of years. It ain't no secret. So the police, you need to lay off the reporters, and you need to think also of the civilians who are out there, because everyone who is out there rallying and protesting are not violent and are not out there to seek harm, nor loot or vandalize property. And that's something the police needs to understand. But I also understand they have a job to do, and they want to clear out the areas at a certain time of night to disperse the crowds, to get them off main streets because of the fear of violence, I'm assuming. Because it seems that at night is when people tend to become wayward and want to vandalize, loot, burn things, etc. But still, the police needs to know that there are other people out there who are just voicing their opinion, and they're not out there to do harm. Once again, a sad day in America. The murder of George Floyd by Chauvin, a Minneapolis cop, a racist cop at that. And this is the time that we are in. But I'm sending prayers to all news affiliates who have reporters reporting around the clock, behind the desk, out on the ground, praying for the protesters, that you will be safe and do diligence and do right to voice your opinion. Give your opinion to those reporters. They need to hear your opinions. The people need to hear your opinions. Not only in America, but abroad. People need to see that you are angry and that you are fed up and that you have a voice and you have rights to rally. You have rights to speak. And that is the spoken word. That is the spoken word. Prayers for the family of George Floyd. I'm pissed myself. I'm angry. I'm just sick of everything. Right now, I don't know how I feel about the police, because I've always tried to be respectful of the law. But I will say right now, I trust nobody. And that's how I feel right now. That's where I'm at. Maybe tomorrow, 5 days from now, I will feel differently. But I don't trust anybody. And I'm just going to be truthful. I do not. Because the same people that kiki in your face and laugh and share jokes are the same ones that make black jokes, black commentary, always have something negative to say. And it's sickening. It's sickening and it's daunting. And we live in a fake world. We always have. And as Spike Lee said, this country was built on a lie, you know? Thievery. So how can you expect hundreds of years later for things to be right amongst African American people, white people, Jews, Arab, other nationalities, Hispanic. There's no way, because you still have the old white boy mentality. And I don't see that things will change. I really don't, because you can't change the mind of a fool. Prayers for all news reporters, those rallying and protesting. And I guess I should say a prayer for the police, because you're surely going to need it. And I just pray that we don't hear of any more fatalities, such as George Floyd, or protesters or reporters, because everyone has the right to gather, to give their opinion, to be a spectator, to report the news, and also to be a civilian and not have their rights violated by abuse, brutality, and death by the police department. Prayers to America. This is Everyday Shenanigans. Thanks for joining me. God bless you. Have a prosperous week. Bye-bye.